In this episode, we interview Louis Dooley, who's currently working for Morgans Financial Limited, along with running his own agency called Dools Digital. Louis, thanks very much for jumping on the Reach Your Potential Now podcast. I think this is episode number 5 for me, so ticking along nicely. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me, Taz.
No, awesome. Let's jump straight into it, and then we just chatted very quickly off air there. A range of different things and the power of connectivity through Zoom and how easy it is to set up. So reach out to one of us if you need some guidance. We're more than happy to lend a hand to help businesses, get these type of communications off the ground. But tell us about yourself, mate. What are you doing? I know you've pivoted your life, I suppose, in the last couple of months.
That's right. Yeah, so I just started a position at Morgans Financial Limited as a deals assistant probably 3 months ago. Pretty well right on the start of this whole ordeal we're going through. So my role there is effectively aiding the senior advisor in whatever capacity I can, predominantly from a research and kind of back-end processing perspective. So I've come from a marketing background, finished my degree, have my own marketing business and operate that still currently. But definitely always had an interest in capital markets. So opportunity came up and I took it with both hands, which is timed perfectly because, as I'm sure a lot of your viewers are kind of finding, entrepreneurship is a tough time at the moment, particularly in a small business capacity. So very fortunate, very grateful for the opportunity that came up right at the right time.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you're a marketer right now, you're probably on a little bit of hot water. And it's funny, you go from a traditional mindset, and I've spoken about this a number of times already. Generally, the first thing that people let go is marketing. But you and I know that we live in a digital world where everyone is connected to that device. We probably should be putting our resources and our time into our online content and, our snapshot content, and then publishing that to stay connected. So, it is a tricky time for social media marketers, digital marketers, because some people would have got let go, and it's unfortunate that sometimes you got to cut costs in some areas, and traditionally that seems to be the easiest one to cut. So if you're looking for some support or guidance, or just looking for a chat, I know both of our doors are open, so please hit us up at any point. You mentioned now you've got your online, your social media digital marketing business. Do you care to elaborate and share what you do within that realm?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of predominantly try to work in the community management space. So what I mean by that is targeting membership-based businesses. And my objective is obviously to get the smallest possible CPA, so cost per acquisition, bringing that customer into the ecosystem where we would then put in a complementary campaign to ultimately increase the lifetime value of that customer. I target high value clients, so things that are like subscription-based membership models that aren't necessarily something that you might impulse buy. So that's kind of my area of specialty, I guess. It's just really building those relationships with prospects rather than saying, 20% off, sale ends in 24 hours. I try and build know, like, and trust relationships with prospects to ultimately increase the lifetime value of that customer.
Yeah, exactly. And we live in a world where essentially the data tells us people need at least 20 touch points before someone purchases or buys a product. So you don't want to be pushing a sales ad straight in their face, because they're probably going to be turtled. They get it, 10,000 of these a day or something like that, the data says. So it's, essentially you want people to, jump on your click and then find some more information or what that business could offer. The Sube model. We've both read the Sell Like Crazy novels. Very good book. I'm nearly at the end of it. So there's if you haven't already seen it, jump on. It's a stack of golden nuggets in there. And then also, mate, you mentioned that you pivoted into the financial world. What were the reasons for that, obviously, move and the timeliness of it?
I've always kind of invested personally. And always been interested in the space. I just never really thought that it would be something that I would explore commercially. An opportunity kind of arose, and it's probably not something that I would have been offered, in different circumstances due to my marketing background and marketing degree. It wasn't something that I saw was going to be an opportunity that would pop up, all that often. So when it came up, I thought, well, it's something I'm interested in. Why not give it a crack? there's things that I can always fall back on if it doesn't work. But at the moment, I'm loving it. It's really challenging and a lot to learn, but that's why I enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, you've nailed it on the head there. And as an educator and a former educator, and in the face-to-face context, but now I'm working as a program manager for an RTO called Binnacle Training. And yeah, I think it's really powerful, the ability to always challenge yourself and always wanting to be better and learn. I think we're always learning in any capacity. We could be 99 years old and we're still learning at that age. But I think it's pivotal now, and I've chatted to people, and whilst a lot of people be spending time watching Netflix, streaming YouTube, Stan, all those other platforms, now's the perfect opportunity, especially if you're struggling for a position or out of work, upskill yourself, because you quite easily pivot in a range of different fields. And we know that
100%.
These skills aren't going away, and they're translatable across various roles. So no doubt you probably slipped into your role quite well, in your financial world, and obviously those marketing skills and those sales skills and those types of skills that you've developed through your studies and obviously through your own business have been translatable. So
yeah, definitely.
Bit of education background, obviously, probably our viewers on this type of podcast are, our current students, those who are looking for potential jobs, and part of the RYPN brand. I've got my shirt on there as well, a bit of branding. The Reach Your Potential Now, and that's the name of the podcast. The idea is behind RYPN is to share experiences, to let people in and let everyone know that, people go through highs and lows and, experience various things throughout life. And there's no greater learning tool than, having a mentor or leaning on people who've actually walked the walk and talked the talk. So I know you've got a great mentor in your dad, who's probably your ideal person, and he runs quite a successful business in his own right. And obviously you got a brother who, quite a good cricketer, and he's, aspiring to, pursue the business world as well. So you've got some really good people around you. Do you care to share your sort of educational journey, schooling, and how that sort of your transition from school to university and now life in this world?
Yeah. So my formal education started at Graceville State School, right opposite West. So I was there for 7 years, primary school. Then moved on to Brisbane Grammar School for 5 years for high school years. And then moved into QUT and studied a Bachelor of Business with a marketing major. I kind of, much like many people leaving school, I enjoyed myself for the first couple of years and was kind of, trying to understand where I fit in society and where I thought I could add as much value as possible. I'm a natural kind of interpersonal communicator, and I thought marketing was probably the go for me, and I did find success in it. However, I found that the skills that I learned at uni were not relevant to what I actually needed to use in the real world. So where I think my education really started was in probably the last 2 years of university. I started really diving into online courses, YouTube, everything and anything that the internet provides, I was consuming and implementing, which was really the foundation of where I founded my business. I was studying, I was using a site called Udemy as well as a lot of YouTube, and I also engaged a online mentor or a coach, and effectively started learning all these marketing skills and all these different campaign practices and elements associated to them, and decided that I'd start helping people that I already knew pro bono, just to kind of implement the skills that I'd learned. Because for me, I'm a very practical learner. Reading something kind of goes straight over my head if I'm not able to implement it. I then started doing it for people, obviously pro bono, and then realized, well, if I'm doing a good job, then I may as well pay for it. And based on that, I kind of had the light bulb moment, founded my business, and kept learning from there. And then my education's kind of been flipped on its head since starting in a completely new industry. So I'm back at ground zero, but it's a lot to learn. And obviously, I would say my biggest mentor is the internet. the capacity
so
that it has.
It's at scale. It's crazy.
It's tremendous. So that's kind of where I think you can pretty well discover anything you need or could need. So as well as a few people around in my current position that are adding heaps of value to my offering in the finance department, because obviously that's something that I'm not particularly refined at. But yeah, so I would say, formally, obviously the schools, and then developed a lot outside of school as well.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it on the head there. Like you've got to be willing to take risks as well, and this might be a small risk as well in your career progression. But how old are you?
21.
21. Like, you've got so much opportunity. You're still living at home. So there's so much opportunity there where you can take risks. And I sort of live my life on the motto of, if you don't win, you learn. And I think someone really professional in the sporting world or some business has that line. So I'll have to look at who actually mentioned that. But I think it's so pivotal. And I think a lot of people are scared to put themselves out there. Are you researching it? Who's got that?
Yeah.
Said that line? That'd be great. I think people are scared to put themselves out there. Is it Michael Jordan, or he's got a similar quote?
I've got a few different people who said it.
Yeah, I thought it was Michael Jordan.
Nelson Mandela said it before.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good. I'll go. Let's go with Nelson. He's done a few things in the world. He's got a few runs on the board. Right. So as I was saying, there's no better chance to maximise your opportunity, willing to take risks and just willing to put yourself first, and that's your own learning. Utilise your time. Don't get caught and distracted by social media. And we've chatted before face-to-face in similar worlds that we're moving into, and so many people waste their time. You got emails, as I said, we're at home now, we're watching Netflix, something's on the TV, whether it's, a news story, we've heard it millions of times just from a different perspective. So, switch off, disconnect for a little bit and put some time into yourself, into your learning. And, we've got podcasts and we've got reading books, YouTube, and then just get into practically doing it. Set up a business, set up a Instagram or a Facebook page and just give it a crack and see where it ends up, and just collaborate and connect with people along the way. I think if you can follow that advice, you're going to be doing pretty well. And you look at what you've learned in this year and you multiply that by 5 times, and you'll fast track yourself and your connections. And that's how we've been able to reconnect through the power of LinkedIn. We both at West at cricket, and then we connected through various social channels because we sort of went on our different paths, and reconnected through a passion of ours, marketing, media, and then now the financial markets as well. And I think, and this is a quote by Winston Churchill, I'm dead set of that, never let a crisis go to waste. And I think there's so many opportunities on the Australian market right now and the world market. Do you care to share a bit of background and your own personal insight into the financial markets and where you see that transitioning during the COVID situation, then post that?
Yeah, sure. I think to start, a lot of the earnings reports of companies a lot of them have been suspended. So it's hard to actually gauge the impact on businesses' earnings as a result of the virus. So what we're looking at the moment is a complete capitulation in market sentiment, although it has bounced back about 20% since its bottom. But speaking generally, we've seen a massive decline in sentiment. So a lot of selling and a lot of decline in support. But the fundamentals of the businesses have, in most cases, remained intact. Those that don't have a massive debt balance, and those that have cash on hand and are able to weather the storm, are equipped to actually experience exponential growth because the fundamentals of that business, or the actual value of that business, has maintained its integrity effectively. It's just the price and the sentiment of that business that's declined. So I think we'll see some serious growth in a lot of sectors based on the fact that the business is still maybe slightly deteriorated, but it's fundamentally still intact prior to the virus, as it was prior to the virus. So once that support starts re-entering the market, or whatever kind of sector we're talking about, those businesses that have managed to withstand the pressures are going to be equipped to actually grow exponentially. In terms of what I think is, sorry, you go.
No, you go, mate. You're on a roll there.
In terms of what I think will happen as a result, I think we're, as you know, we're already experiencing a transition into digital across a number of different fronts. But I think this is almost, the final straw, the catalyst that is really going to make that necessity for businesses to have a digital offering and have that offering optimized. I think we'll see a massive decline in foot traffic in stores, whether that's from a fear of retracting back to this kind of lockdown period, or whether people go, well, I don't need to go to that shop, I can just go online and do it.
Yep.
Then whatever that kind of rationale is, we're definitely going to see a decline in foot traffic and unnecessary human to human interaction when we can do it through a digital platform or a website or whatever that kind of offering is. I think we'll also see a bit of a change in work environments. I think obviously, the two biggest expenses for a business is staffing and usually staffing and lease of the facility that they're in. If people or business owners are finding that the productivity of their staff is just as good whether they work at home or at their desk, then there's no real need for that business owner to pay for the cost of that real estate if they can reduce that expense, increase their margin as a result, and still maintain thereabouts the same capacity that they did prior to the virus, which will be very interesting to see what happens. And obviously, that's a massive flow-on effect to a number of different areas in the economy. Notably, commercial real estate, I think, would be very interesting to see how that goes. And I'd also be interested to see how the actual nature of employment changes, whether we move towards a freelance or an on-demand style employment, because people are identifying that this remote access is allowing us to kind of pick and choose individuals for specific tasks to get the most efficient and effective result for that specific item or project or task or whatever that problem at hand be. Will be very interesting. It's a funny thing to try and forecast, but I think there's some areas that might experience a bit of change in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time, and there's so many opportunities. It's forcing businesses to look at their current systems and operations and look at, hang on, am I going to be around here for the next 3 to 5 years? We already know digital's coming. We've got virtual reality. We've got augmented reality. We've got other various forms of digital communications. And further to your 2 points there, I throw in travel too. I'd hate to look at balances where people are sending people around the state, country, world, just on travel to have a meeting or a prospective meeting with a potential client, when you've got a functionality as good as Zoom. You can essentially connect people together. And I was chatting with a colleague of mine at Binnacle Training, and we essentially have the same role. We're program managers in an area that's pretty wide. We manage Southeast Queensland collectively between two blokes. We manage 160 schools, and obviously we're busy with emails and phones. And I think for us, to limit and to reduce travel, we're only looking at one example the other day where I've got a school on the Sunshine Coast. For me, that's a 3-hour round trip. An hour travel, an hour meeting, and an hour travel home. I could just simply schedule a Zoom conversation like we are right now, 30 minutes, put up a screen share, do the exactly same conversation or perform the same task that I would if I was sitting next to this person, and bang, save myself 2.5 hours time. So I think we can be more effective with our time. I'm currently reading this book called Atomic Habits, or actually listening to it through Audible and Amazon. And it's talking about systems and processes, the good and the bad, and obviously just improving on a 1%. Trying to improve yourself and just declutter essentially, and just make more efficiencies. And I was chatting with a person this morning on another podcast around automation, and we want to automate as much of our trivial tasks as possible. We've seen in a marketing world, you don't essentially have to be now dialing up. If someone can click on an ad, we can send them to various landing pages or opt-in pages. They're getting all the information. There's an automated email being sent out. So there's so many different channels that you can definitely explore, and you don't need to be, essentially picking up cold calling or sending a cold email or doing a cold DM or whatever it is. I think there's different ways now we can communicate. I think it's just the good businesses are just going to go leapfrog far ahead of the other businesses. And then obviously those with capital are going to then buy out probably some of these smaller businesses who are going to struggle to reopen the doors. So, it's really exciting to see what the other side looks like. Yes, we're going through a really traumatic time, and there's a lot of strain and a lot of pressure on families. And, obviously the expectation we've got to stay at home, and stay home saves lives, and that hashtag currently going through. It's
flat.
Yeah, but it's true. We've got to, obviously everyone's got to do their bit to try and stem this this pandemic, but we've spoken about education, but also I think we need to be a little bit mindful around how can we best position ourselves to bounce back from this? How do we put our business in the best foot forward? How can we, get through 2020 and beyond? And how can we, try and make wise financial investments in a market where I think there's so many opportunities. So, yeah, it's definitely crazy. And I'd love to hear a bit more about what you're doing to continue to kick on your business, and obviously work with those clients who are probably shutting up and probably looking to do takeaways, and just if you want to share a couple of things that you're working with your businesses to keep business flowing essentially.
Yeah, look, at the moment I think is an opportune time to really start trying to build up your databases. Whether they be leads or prospects or whatever capacity your databases look, I think now is a great time for a few reasons. First is there's actually an increase in demand on the social platforms that I know I use, and I'm sure are probably the most popular in Australia anyways, based on the fact that more often than not, people are, they've got their monitor and they've got Facebook up on the monitor where they probably wouldn't have it up if they're at work. And there's an increase in demand because people are spending a lot more time on their screens than they would. In addition to that, there's a decrease in supply because more businesses are shutting up. As you said, advertising is one of the first things people cut. So there's an increase in demand, decrease in supply, which results in those that still advertise get a cheaper CPA because there's less competition in the market space.
Yep.
So it's easier to show your content to them, and there's less alternatives for them to select. So I think building up your databases is integral at the moment, and that's what I'm telling my clients, and that's what I'm doing myself as well. So whether that be from your business's capacity or even as an individual, whether you're using LinkedIn, you're outreaching to new people and trying to build up your personal network, now is a great time to actually add value to people wherever possible. And I believe that's the best method of actually acquiring that lead, rather than, as you would have read in the Sube book, it's a common theme in there, and it's add value as much as you can. There's
Gary V model.
Gary V, all of it. Yeah, well, it's a pretty popular model, but if you can provide something to them of value in exchange for their email, phone number, name, then you're able to then remarket to them, build a relationship with them. And so when your doors do open, or when the economy kind of bounces back and people are more open to a bit of more discretionary spending, then they've got a relationship with you. They already trust you. So when you do give them that offer, when they're ready and when the economy's ready, then you're going to find a massive conversion rate. And a lot of businesses are kind of neglecting that because their thought process is that, well, I can't convert them at the moment, so what's the point? But when you look at any life cycle of any lead, very rarely does it, and as you said, 20 points of information needs to be done. So very rarely does a prospect convert on that first point of contention. So if you wait until things are ready to go, then you're going to have a month, 2 months, 3 months, however long your cycle is, until your prospects are ready to convert, which is then you're going to miss this, 3, 6, however long we're in lockdown for, on top of the 3 months that it takes to kind of start rebuilding.
Yep.
So I think now is an opportune time to leverage the increase in demand and reduction in supply to start building up your databases of leads, your personal network, and whatever capacity that looks. Really start building up connections and forging relationships with individuals and businesses.
Yeah, definitely. And further to that, it's really important to not neglect your current clients as well. And I've got this from somewhere. I've got a bit of thing in my calendar. I've set 9 before 9. So that means 9 personal conversations, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom, whether it's a text, or whether it's an email. Just reaching out to my current friends, family, current clients, just to check in to see, just have a personal conversation. Hey, mate, how are you going? How are things traveling in your world? If you need me, reach out. So, that's something I've sort of instilled in the last week and a half.
9 before 9.
Yeah, I have stole it from somewhere. The guy, I just can't think of his name. He's the digital marketing guy for realestate.com. I listened to him speak at Future Leaders Conference middle of last year and got a lot of value. He's a big mover in that digital marketing space from a realestate.com. And I was chatting to another client of mine, or a friend of mine, sorry, and he's runs a digital agency as well, and he's just sort of left the job and gone into this realm, and he's working with a lot of real estates, and they're looking at doing virtual tours. And I think it's only going to change the way we do things. You spoke about e-commerce. Shop fronts are going to close because you look at all the overheads with, having a shop front, paying wages, when you can be pivoting your business on the internet, online, social channels. As long as you've got a strong brand, obviously you can then traffic, and then you're using your marketplace appropriately. But the real estate industry, for example, is now having to pivot, but also that's probably going to buy people back time on a Saturday when they're, might be looking at 8 to 10 different open homes where they've jumped on realestate.com or various, different agencies' website and looked through a virtual tour, or gone through and, looked at a little promo ad that they've put together that's 30 to 40 seconds long. And if you weeded out your sort of list anyway, you've got it down to 3 or 4 that you might want to check out once this is all over. So you're going to save yourself so much time. So I think out of this, if there's any positive we're looking at, I think we're going to be more efficient in what we do. Hopefully we're going to be better educated because we've actually spent some time learning, researching, upskilling ourselves to make better decisions into the future from our own personal perspective, but also from a business perspective. So, I'm really keen to see what the other side looks like from my own financial investment perspective, from my own business perspective. And I know at Binnacle we work in the schooling sector. It's around, how can we best position our learning? We've got our learning LMS online, so our management system is done online, but we're having to pivot now that we've been in contact with schools, and obviously we've got issues around internet and computer access for some of our remote schools and lesser off students and families. So we're pivoting our business to still provide a traditional means of learning. So the old, hard, work booklets. So our team have been busy putting those together, but also then, identifying which assessments they can complete from a theoretical perspective that they can complete at home. And then obviously we're going to have to restructure our unit plans so that students, when it comes to a practical assessment, which is in all of our 3 courses, obviously that still needs to be met. And we're looking at, when can that be timetabled in? Should this go for another 6 months? Well, then we're going to have to, again, look at, ways of filming that. And we've, listed a number of key different filming platforms. You've got Zoom, you've got Skype, you've got a phone there. It's got generally a camera and a video recorder on it that does a good job. So when we talk about, cutting advertising costs and marketing from a global perspective, there's still people within your team with good social skills who are young and enthusiastic. So lean on them to be able to, stand in front of someone, take a video on your phone, post it on Facebook. That's simply better than doing nothing. You know what I mean? And you look at some of these, Zoom podcasts, a lot of these big entrepreneur people are doing, Gary Vee, they're simply done on this, or they've got 3 or 4 people. You've just got a little bit of a background, you've got a bit of branding on there. Now businesses now starting to upsell and say, okay, this podcast is sponsored by X, Y, and Z, and they're starting to recoup some money because people are now online, they're engaging, they're consuming content. So, it's a good time to be in this world. But I think key decision makers need to be mindful that they need to be pivoting their business, not neglecting, as you've spoken about, you've hit a few golden nuggets there, not neglecting the marketplace that's currently in a high traffic zone. So, mate, it's crazy. Any further advice before we wrap it up? I know you're quite busy, mate, and I've got another meeting jumping here at 2:00 as well. So any further advice from a financial perspective or from a digital marketing that you want to share with the audience before we finish up today?
Look, I think as that, your quote kind of quite clearly sums it up, don't let a crisis go to waste. I think right now there's a lot of value in, not just the financial market, but markets all around, all around the different kind of sectors of the economy. So I think we need to identify those value opportunities and take advantage of them. I think that, there's a quote by Warren Buffett, it's be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. And I think that's that heavily applies to right now. There's a lot of fear still in the market. We have seen a bit of a bounce back, but that doesn't mean, that could be a dead cat bounce, or it could be, the start of a pretty prolific bull run.
Yep.
That's the troubling time about this uncertain kind of unconventional period we're living in. But I think there's definitely value at the moment, and I think people need to take advantage of that value in order to capitalize on the potential upside that is kind of around the corner.
If someone was looking to get into the market, who would you recommend? Who do you work for now, and how can they get in contact with you or your business, your employer?
Yeah, so the person that they'd be speaking to would be Kenneth Beanland. He's my manager. He's the senior advisor. So effectively, feel free to get in contact with myself, and then I would then refer them on to Kenneth.
Yep.
Effectively, how we work is he would be giving all the financial advice because he is a highly accredited investment advisor. But I'm more than happy to forge relationships with people and give them my kind of perspective, but just not from an advisory perspective.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And that was Morgan's Financial that you're currently
Morgan's
working
Financial
for?
Limited. That's correct. North Quay office.
North Quay, right in the city. Beautiful. Obviously working from home. So is that the decision from Morgan? So if you can work from home?
Yeah, we're all working from home. There's every now and then someone will be in the office to pick up mail or a few different things that need to be done if it's printing or photocopying. But we're fully from home at the moment.
Yeah,
and
cool,
I think
mate.
we'll be for a bit of an extended period of time is my forecast, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely in the gut, and information came out yesterday around the education sector, and obviously schools are going to be distance learning for the next 5 weeks. So it's interesting to see where that transitions, and to see what that sort of landscape I suppose looks like moving forward, and how we best approach that. So I think a couple of key points out of today's sort of conversations around collaboration, pivoting the business if you can, staying connected, and utilising digital tools to give your business and yourself the best chance moving forward. Thanks heaps for jumping on, mate. I had a lot of fun, and let's do this again soon, eh?
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Taz.
Awesome, mate.